What if the moment everyone dismissed as coincidence was actually the truth fans have been chasing for years? What if the ring on Shen Yue's finger, the one that surfaced for only a breath of a second, carries the same unmistakable design worn once, quietly, subtly, by Dylan Wang himself? This is the question shaking the entire fandom today. Because in one fleeting frame, one unintentional slip of the camera, one glimmer of metal under soft lighting, the story changed. Not just for Shen Yue, not just for Dylan, but for every fan who ever believed their chemistry on and off screen was more than a scripted illusion. It begins with a photograph. A candid shot taken at a routine event. Nothing remarkable on the surface. Shen Yue, serene as ever, moving through the crowd with the poise she has mastered. A soft smile. A lowered gaze. The quiet grace that makes her impossible to ignore, yet impossible to fully understand. But in that split second, her hand lifted, and the world froze. There it was. A ring. Delicate, elegant, unmistakably personal. But the shock didn't come from the ring itself. It came from the realization that this ring, its shape, its subtle markings, its curved design, matches one Dylan Wang wore during a private behind-the-scenes moment years ago. A moment fans archived, replayed, screenshotted, analyzed, and ultimately stored as one of those tiny mysteries that never quite fades. Today, that mystery has resurfaced. And it is louder than ever. The internet exploded. Comparison photos emerged. Fans aligned the patterns, the contours, the exact bend of the band. Every line matched. Every detail aligned. And for the first time in years, the speculation was no longer about possibility but about connection. Because rings are not accidents. Rings are never random. Especially not when two people have a history like Shen Yue and Dylan Wang. Their story has always been drenched in a strange and powerful chemistry, one that never needed words to be convincing. When they filmed together, their dynamic was effortless, raw, almost too natural. Their interviews were filled with unspoken laughter, shared glances, interruptions that felt more like comfort than coincidence. Even after the drama ended, even after life pulled them in separate directions, the whispers never truly stopped. And now, they have returned, quietly, indirectly, but undeniably, through this one object. The ring. Fans dug deeper. Was this a recent gift? A long-kept symbol? Something exchanged privately, without cameras, without scripts, without the noise of the industry? Or was it a shared item from years ago, preserved, cherished, and worn now as a quiet confession? Every possibility feels heavier than the last. Because Shen Yue has been moving with unusual secrecy lately. Fewer posts. Shorter appearances. Moments of silence that feel deliberately placed. Her world has shifted, and for the first time, fans are starting to understand why. Meanwhile, Dylan Wang has been just as enigmatic. More reserved during interviews. More careful with his words. More reflective when asked about relationships, often hinting at something he calls meaningful, something he says he is protecting from the world. And now, that private something may be shining on Shen Yue's finger. The question becomes louder. More piercing. More impossible to ignore. Is this the proof? Is this the moment when years of speculation, hopes, and fan theories finally collide with reality? Was this ring a symbol of a promise made quietly between them, long before the cameras were rolling? A promise that outlived scripts, endings, and distance? As the debate deepens, one truth becomes undeniable. This is no longer just a rumor. This is no longer a coincidence. This is a revelation wrapped in gold. A soft, silent admission that perhaps something has always existed between Shen Yue and Dylan Wang, something that didn't need public confirmation to remain real. The screen fades to black. The image of the matching rings lingers like a secret whispered, too late to be taken back. And the world waits, breathless, trembling, and stunned, for what comes next. But the story does not end with the ring. In fact, the ring is merely the doorway, the first crack in a wall that has stood quietly between Shen Yue and Dylan Wang for years. A wall built of silence, professionalism, timing, and the unbearable weight of public expectation. Because the truth is this: every moment between them has always felt suspended, unfinished, waiting for something. And now the world realizes that perhaps they were waiting too. Once the photographs spread like wildfire, fans didn't just revisit the ring. They went back to the beginning. Back to the first day Shen Yue and Dylan met on set. Back to the footage that was once dismissed as playful chemistry but now, in the light of this discovery, feels charged with hidden meaning. There is a clip buried deep in fan archives, recorded during the early days of filming. The director calls cut. The cast relaxes. And in the background, Shen Yue and Dylan share a moment. A small, soft moment. She laughs at something he whispers. He looks at her, not with the gaze of a co-star, but with something warmer. Something unguarded. Something that, at the time, fans could not explain. Now they can. Because that ring did not appear out of nowhere. Its presence suggests history, continuity, and a connection that never faded even when the world believed it had. Slowly, the narrative deepens. People begin to retrace their steps through every interview they gave, every fan meeting, every sidelong glance captured in behind-the-scenes videos. And suddenly, the puzzle pieces that once seemed scattered now lock perfectly into place. Their silences make sense. Their distance makes sense. Even the way both of them always avoided addressing rumors directly now feels deliberate, as if they were protecting something fragile, yet profoundly important. It becomes harder to deny that there was always a story beneath the story. Consider the months after their series ended. Dylan's rise into global stardom. Shen Yue's evolution into a quieter, more introspective version of herself. Their paths diverged publicly, yet their private choices, their tones in interviews, their unexplained emotional shifts, they tell a different truth. There is one interview in particular, one that fans now revisit with new understanding. Dylan was asked to describe the type of person he could see himself committing to. He paused, looked down, smiled faintly, and said he admired someone who was simple, genuine, and able to make him feel grounded. At the time, it was vague. Today, it feels like a confession spoken in code. Meanwhile, in a separate interview, Shen Yue described her ideal connection as someone who felt familiar, as if you've known them longer than you actually have. A strange, poetic answer. But now, that familiarity echoes differently. As these fragments assemble, the ring becomes more than jewelry. It becomes the final proof that the story the world imagined was never entirely fiction. But there is more. Weeks before the ring surfaced, Dylan was seen wearing a band of almost identical design during what appeared to be a casual outing. He was photographed at an airport, unaware of the lens focused on his hand. The moment was ignored at the time, overshadowed by other news. But now it has resurfaced, and it has transformed everything. If one matching ring can be dismissed as coincidence, two cannot. If one moment can be called accidental, hundreds of aligned details cannot. And so the world begins to ask, are Shen Yue and Dylan sharing something quietly, something deliberately hidden beneath their careers, their schedules, and the chaos of fame? But the deeper question is this: why hide it? Perhaps the answer lies in the world they come from. A world where the smallest rumor can derail a career. A world where private happiness must be guarded like a fragile treasure. A world where love, if it exists, must survive in silence until it becomes strong enough to stand in the light. And now, maybe, that moment is approaching. Yet the mystery grows even more intriguing when fans recall how rarely Shen Yue wears jewelry of any kind. She is known for minimalist choices, often appearing accessory-free, her aesthetic clean and natural. So the decision to wear a ring, not one of fashion, but one of meaning, cannot be dismissed as stylistic. Especially when Dylan has been seen adjusting his own ring in quiet, unobserved moments that fans captured without context until now. If the rings are truly linked, then the story behind them is deeper than the public can yet imagine. Is this a shared promise? A quiet bond maintained through years of distance? A symbol exchanged not when the cameras were rolling, but during a moment no one witnessed. Something said softly, privately, between two people who understand each other in ways the world never will. The air grows heavier with each unanswered question. Why did Shen Yue choose to reveal it at this moment? Was it intentional? Or was it a slip, an unguarded instant the world was never meant to see? If it was intentional, then perhaps this is the beginning of a slow unveiling. A quiet signal that neither of them is running from the truth anymore. If it was accidental, then fate may have just opened the door for them. Shen Yue, always gentle yet resolute. Dylan, always playful yet deeply protective. Two energies that have always danced around each other like parallel lines, close, destined, but never crossing publicly. Until now. And so, the world waits. Not for a press release. Not for an official announcement. But for the next quiet moment, the next subtle sign, the next accidental truth that slips through the cracks. Because the ring has spoken. And once a symbol like that is seen, the story can never go back to silence. This is no longer speculation. This is no longer fantasy. This is no longer fanfiction breathing in the shadows. This is the unfolding of a hidden chapter, a revelation in progress, a silent truth preparing itself for the light. And somewhere, behind closed doors, away from the noise, far from the cameras, Shen Yue and Dylan Wang may be watching the world react, knowing that this time, the story belongs to them.